Ms. Corvo, what did you have here?
Well, my memory isn't failing me. It is October 31st.
Okay. And today's November 19th, roughly.
Right.
So what happens?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that question, and I just turned to Mr. Sly. It's under Property Maintenance Code. And, so there are 5 sections under the Property Maintenance Code that the house was cited under.
The house or the garage?
Well, let's see, 1, 2, 3 for the house, 2 for the garage.
Is that including exterior?
Yes. Both the house and the garage were cited for loose paint. The outside, the garage roof needs repair, the side porch needs repair, and the exterior walls of the house need repair.
Any idea how many of those things have been done?
I don't know.
What has been the procedure in the past when a property has been cited, with a date and then not fulfilled?
I honestly don't know because it's handled by code enforcement. Something that they would handle routinely.
Well, if and when code refers to loss, the council set up a series of civil penalties for noncompliance. I'm not aware that that's been referred to our office by codes.
Can we follow up on that, Mrs. Corvo? Get with code.
Sure can.
And
Mr. Mayor, I was asked a question at the last meeting to pose to our staff regarding whether or not there existed a health hazard in that facility. And in my discussion with Mr. McQueen, the answer to that question is no, in his opinion.
all right.
Is he the health code inspector now? Mr. McShane, is he the health code inspector? Because he wasn't at first, and then he was, and I'm not sure where we stand on that. Which is he doing now? I mean, I looked at the old footage of this, and it was said that he is not a health and code inspector and doesn't have that kind of authority. So we went to ask Dr. Kosolki, and he did have the authority. But now you're telling me that, is he back? I don't know, maybe he got promoted in a month or so.
I was asked a question by the council posed to Mr. McQueen. As a code enforcement supervisor, he also serves as the health officer under the direction of Dr. Kosolki. And Mr. McQueen has indicated to me that indeed he does not believe there is a health hazard. It rises to the level of a public nuisance.
Were any of the employees asked if they would be willing to sign an affidavit other than Mr.
I
McQueen?
specifically asked Mr. McQueen that question.
And the answer was
No.
no.
I mean, there were no grounds to sign an affidavit on, in his opinion.
I guess what's confusing to me is that we have condemned this property.
Yes, that's correct.
And
this property for occupancy.
Correct. But then it seems like in order to have the health officer, who is a third party, come in and at least just give us, his judgment, that we have to then bow to the desire of the property owner who, who we have condemned and who we are barring from being in the property, other than with a contractor.
No, Mr. Moot can be in the property by himself or with contractors. He just can't reside there. He can't occupy it.
Right, understood. I just don't understand why we have to, in effect, bow to his desire when the property has been condemned. What liberties does it give us under condemnation?
With the door wide open, he doesn't need anybody to unlock it anymore either. He doesn't have to wait for anybody to walk in the side door.
A hasp was put on the side door.
Oh, yeah, after we pointed that out, I mean, that should have been something that was looked at in August when this was inspected. And they were in there all, and you told me, well, they go in and inspect it when they close it up.
Oh, that was my understanding.
Well, and I come and told you what they did, and they never went back in there after that either. They just lock it. I don't blame them. I wouldn't go in there either. They just lock the door and leave. I don't blame the code enforcement.
I would say that the failure to have secure the side door was certainly an error, and we apologize for that. But the question is I'm led to believe that there are people from city staff in the building on a fairly regular basis. I mean, if we can say with some certainty that all this, it was intimated at one time that all the plumbing needed replacement. I don't know if that's true, but I assume that would be inspected on a fairly regular basis as it's being done.
All the plumbing did not need to be replaced. The majority of the plumbing that needed to be replaced was on the first floor and in the basement.
Is there electric in that house now?
Yes, there is.
Yeah,
Electric was on when we went in and emptied the house. We did not turn it on.
Who's the licensed plumber? There's only a few of them, aren't there?
I don't know,
Greg's,
Mr. Mayor.
was it Greg's Plumbing? I can't think of it. He's a good plumber.
Greg's.
But, I mean, the contractors that were in there working with him were wearing masks with perfume on them, and I said, what's wrong? They go, it stinks so bad in there. He goes, I can't stand it because he's got a refrigerator full of decomposed food that's been in there about 5 years. So I'm sure that's pretty healthy.
Well, I'm as frustrated as you are, but we get the anecdotal accounts from contractors and vendors.
You were in there, Jeff.
I was in there, and
For me, it was 10 times worse than you thought it was.
Well, in terms of the debris, yes. In terms of anything that I would personally, and I know they cleaned out the basement and bleached it and power washed it and all of that. But in terms of what I saw, I mean, it was mostly just stuff, trash and so on, and personal effects that were piled to the ceiling. I mean, it was certainly overwhelming, but it was not. I didn't feel threatened. I mean, health-wise, I mean, everybody was in there. Nobody, at the time, 2 times I was in that house, nobody was wearing masks.
So you feel what they brought out of there was all healthy stuff?
I don't know. I can only relate what I saw and experienced on the 2 occasions I was in the house. I did talk to the one vendor who certainly supported your version of things. We could. I mean, perhaps the guy that owns Greg's Plumbing is a source for an affidavit. If that's the way you want it, if somebody wants to ask him. But I think you'll find it very seldom do vendors want to sign affidavits against customers who are paying them in any line of work.
I don't blame them there either. I'm just saying you saw what they brought out of there. 220 pails, Jeff, of human waste is not healthy in any environment, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you think that's all right. That's not the way I was brought up.
Well, I don't think it's all right.
And I've worked in some pretty bad places, and I'll tell you one thing. I've never seen anything like that before.
Mm-hmm.
And for us to live next door to that for 20 years,
that shouldn't happen.
Who knows what's going to happen?
That's true. But that was cleaned up to the best of my knowledge, and power washed and bleached and everything.
You talk about the downstairs? Was power washed and bleached?
Well, the basement, wasn't it?
The basement was, but that's not where most of the pails were.
Mm-hmm. But they're out of there. Candidly, what I saw was...
They may be out of there. I know he's carrying a bunch of them back in. I don't know what's in them.
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
Perhaps at the next regular meeting, which is whenever it is, the code enforcement people who've been involved in this should be here. That's what I would think. Because obviously we're going to go through these questions again. And I assume we have a log on what, when, and where city staff has been in that building, since we're all following court orders and everything. There seems to be a disconnect between the anecdotal accounts, and I'm not disputing them, and what we're being told. I assume if plumbing's installed, somebody's inspecting it. I assume if all these beams that are being put in, I assume someone inspected it. Or do we just take his engineer's certification on it?
I think we went in and looked and made sure there was a beam installed.
Right. I assume we have a date on when that happened, when we went in and looked.
I can't answer that question.
So I would assume we could find out what was observed. And since we seem to have differing versions, at least being presented to the council. Not saying who's right or who isn't, just saying they're different versions.